Uh, Next slide, please. We have worked with the National Automobile Dealers Association since 2008, and they were instrumental in helping us do the data collection survey that brought in all the information we needed to program Portfolio Manager to be able to score a dealership on the 1 to 100 scale. NADA has just been a model partner. They're really kind of a model for dealing with other trade and business associations. And I did want to mention that, let's see, it's on January 23rd through 26th in New Orleans is this year's NADA show. And I wanted to point out there will be a subject matter expert at booth 4013 addressing electric vehicles, energy efficiency, and Energy Star. It's one of our service and product providers who knows our work very well. Next, please. So the Energy Star score is, like it says, one simple number understood by everyone, 50's average. So you know that if you start out with 10, 15, you have a lot of opportunity. While we promote and support certification in every way we can, once it hits a 75 or higher, we want to be sure that everyone understands that the journey on the way to a higher score is very important. So if you, whatever score you start out with, as Portfolio Manager is showing your increased score commensurate with the dollars you're saving, that's important. So we don't think that certification is the be all end all. The idea is to continually improve, continue to save money to the bottom line, and get all the benefits that go with that. Next, please. So just so you know, the score does apply to all dealerships that sell new and used light duty, medium duty, heavy duty cars and trucks. We only exclude motorcycles and non-vehicles like that. Next, please. Next, please. Okay, one of the big values is the blue and white label that can appear on your door with various decals. We also, through contractors, have recycled aluminum plaques, flags, banners, all kinds of ways to show your local customers that you're an Energy Star partner or even Energy Star certified. So we know that well over 90% of your local clientele know the blue and white label, and they have a positive view of it. We have, independent verification. So there's that value besides the money you're probably saving. We know from experience that virtually all commercial buildings are paying for about 30% more energy than is necessary. Now, this will vary from dealership to dealership, depending on what improvements you've made over the years and all kinds of other factors. But big picture, there's good money to be saved to your bottom line as a dealership, and your customers will appreciate what you're doing. Next, please. So the label is out there. I imagine most people know it from the 7 billion or more products that they have in their homes and businesses. Many people, 2.3 million people or more, live in Energy Star certified new homes. And the 41,000 buildings needs to be updated. That's more like 44,000 commercial buildings are now Energy Star certified, 250 industrial plants. And this includes, we work with the automobile manufacturers. There's a separate focus group for all the vehicle brands that manufacture. Next, please. So the dealerships are one of several types of buildings that can earn Energy Star. Some of you may have been at the NADA show last year when we launched the Energy Star score. It's not a small thing. It took on the order of, it took several months with NADA's help to gather the data needed. And then it took our contractors going on a year to develop this very sophisticated tool. Next, please. So this is just showing the curve of growth in portfolio manager certified buildings. You can see where we're getting to the 44,000, and it just continues to grow. Thank you. Next, please. So a lot of value with this label and logo. That's why there's, these tens of thousands of certified buildings, billions of products, millions of homes. We know that by the time you get certification, you've really lowered your utility bills. And it's verified month by month or whenever you update your utility billing scores. Another value is we've had partners tell us that it clued them into a leak or some kind of energy use problem. They saw it show up in Portfolio Manager as well as their bill and help them sort that out. We know that the dollar savings are there, and that for us at EPA, in a voluntary market-based approach, we're preventing pollution together. Next, please. So we're really proud of our vehicle dealerships, and there's a lot of work we know went into 13 dealerships being certified. And our 13th just came in the last few days. That's Suburban Ford of Sterling Heights, Michigan. I would note that they're part of the Lithium Auto Group, one of our partners, and we partner with individual dealerships. We partner with various brands and motor groups. So however you're affiliated, we're happy to work with your organization. Next, please. Okay, let me now introduce my colleague and my contractor, Thayer Tomlinson. She's the program manager at the Energy and Security Group, our longtime partner. Thayer will go over some of the technical details on certification.
Thank you, Jerry. And thanks everyone for joining today. As Jerry mentioned, I'm going to walk through the eligibility requirements to earn certification, so you have a better understanding of what it entails and the information and data needed to submit an application and to earn certification. Next slide. Okay, so to earn certification, a property will need to be located in the US and or owned by US government if it's not located in the US. It will need to achieve an Energy Star score of 75 or higher in Portfolio Manager, and then have that score verified by a licensed professional. I'll go into more details on what that verification process means, but those are our kind of three key eligibility requirements. Next slide. Okay, so let's talk about Portfolio Manager, which Jerry mentioned. And Portfolio Manager, in essence, is a secure online tool that's used by thousands of organizations, and that allows them to measure and to track their energy use, water use, waste, greenhouse gas emissions, and cost. And it's an essential tool for vehicle dealerships and others to really be able to understand what's happening on site at your dealership, and then through that tool to apply for Energy Star certification. So next slide. So this management tool gives you, as I mentioned, an opportunity to really assess how you're doing. In a sense, you can't manage what you're not measuring. And so if you are using renewable energy, if you're switching from, say, propane to electric heating and cooling, that tool can show you how that impacts your overall energy use as well as your costs on a monthly basis and on a yearly basis. You can also really create a number of custom reports. There are over 1,000 different metrics you can track using Portfolio Manager. And then if your score is a 75 or higher on that 1 to 100 range, then you can apply for Energy Star certification. Next slide. Okay, so let's dig into how to actually apply. What I'm going to do is go through the specific application process with screenshots. And then if you have questions throughout, please put them in the chat and we can go into any more detail at the end of this presentation. Next slide. Okay, so let's look at our our overall application process. So first, as I mentioned, you'll need to benchmark your property and portfolio manager, and that will give you an understanding of what your score looks like. If you've got a score of 75 or higher, then you're eligible to apply for certification. Then we can go into the application and portfolio manager. I will go through these steps in detail. In my slides, you'll see on the upper right-hand corner, kind of a tracker of these different steps, but this is kind of the overall highlight of what that application process entails. Next slide. Okay, so first things, if you are a vehicle dealership and you are putting your data into Portfolio Manager, there are some pieces of data that are good to have, and then there are some pieces of data that are required if you're going to get a score and earn certification. And so I've listed out here the requirements for the score, and I wanted to go through some of these that are really specific items that we've seen vehicle dealerships have questions on. So your gross floor area obviously is all the space within your building, and that should include, your sales floor, offices, conference rooms, vehicle service centers, hallways, stairwells. It should not include your exterior space like your parking areas. It should include, however, if you've got a paint shop or a body shop and service bays, that's part of your gross floor area. You'll have to include the number of workers on the main shift, and our default value, I think, is 1.7 workers per 1,000 square feet. But really what we need to see from you is, what is that actual number on the main shift? It will need to include the number of vehicles in inventory. And this also should be highlighted that if you also sell motorcycles or ATVs, those should not be included. It really should be included, the vehicles that Jerry mentioned at the beginning. And then we're also going to need to see the percent that can be heated and percent that can be cooled, and that's just a percentage number. Most of the time I see it as 100%, but your dealership may be different. And then other information that Portfolio Manager allows you to add in that's optional would be the number of computers and your weekly operating hours. Next slide. Okay, so once you get that data in, as you can see in my slide here, that top slide would say you don't have all that data in yet because you're not eligible for certification. Once you get that data in and your score is 75 or higher, a button will pop up at the top of your portfolio page that says this property is now eligible to apply for certification. If you get a slide with the top where it says not currently eligible, you can click on that link and Portfolio Manager will clearly explain to you why specifically you are not eligible for certification. And that may be that you're missing data, your score is too low, your data is too old. There could be a number of different reasons, but it's really helpful if you're thinking, I really feel like I should be eligible, but I'm not. So if you're not, click on that link and you'll understand why. Next slide. Okay, so as you go into the process, again, I've got that tracker on the upper right-hand side, and let's go through step by step of what this looks like. My screenshots obviously show a test vehicle dealership, but this one will be your property. And so in that area for applying for recognition in that screen, we'll want you to put in is the name and address of your building. And that's what you want to have displayed. So where it says your property name for the building registry, If you own, say, 10 dealerships and you always name them by number in Portfolio Manager, you probably don't want it to say property 7892, but instead to say your specific vehicle dealership name. So just pay attention to that to make sure what name is in there is what you want the public database to say. You can also include a property photo in the property listing, and that will be then, if you look for all certified buildings, yours would come up with a photo as well as your name and address. Next slide. What you'll also be asked to include is a property description. And what this does is, this isn't something that's going to be public, but it's going to go to the reviewers to help them understand what your property entails. And so it's really helpful to describe who's in the property, what the services are, and as many details as possible, so there are fewer reasons for them to come back to you with questions or requests for further explanation. Next slide. And here I include just some good examples of property descriptions. Again, this is really highlighting, here's how many work stalls we have, here's how many showrooms, here's what we sell. The more detail you can add in here, the better, but it doesn't need to be a full accounting of everything you've put in your application. It's just a thing so that the reviewers have a snapshot going in to say, okay, this is what I'm going to be looking for, and this is what your property includes. Next slide. Okay, so now we have to get into all of the roles. This page has a number of different contacts in there, and I just want to highlight the specific details of these contacts. So this gives you the opportunity to share with Portfolio Manager and therefore your reviewers who they should be contacting if there are, say, questions on your application. And so in this section, you can add in the owner and the manager of the property, and whether or not you work with a service and product provider who would do the energy management of your property. And then we also want contact information for your application. It will automatically populate the primary contact, but you are able to change it by clicking on Add Contact. And that's really to give us the opportunity to understand who we should reach out to if there's any questions about the application. And then the signatory should be a representative of the property owner or manager, so it's really clear who's signing that application. And then finally, on the last line, we're asking about the licensed professional. And again, I'm going to get to that in just a minute, but that's the person that's going to verify your application on your side. They will be the person verifying the data. And in many cases, the primary contact, the signatory, and the LP are often going to be different people. So just pay attention to that when you're filling out this data. Next slide. Okay, and then you get to order an award. As Jerry mentioned, one of the great opportunities to highlight your success with certification is having that decal on the front of your property. This gives you the opportunity to order either the classic blue and white or an etched look. This is free of charge, and so this decal will be sent to you with your your congratulations letter. And just make sure that delivering the award, you have the correct name and address. And then you can also highlight who the congratulations letter should be addressed to. So if that's something you want to frame or to highlight, it's really clear who that letter is addressed to. As I mentioned, there's no charge for these decals. If you damage or lose your awards package, you can request a new one on the Energy Star website, and that will be provided to you as well. Next slide. Okay, so we've gone through the award information, and now we're going to get into the eligibility information. Once you get into this page, you can choose the 12-month period for your energy consumption information. Portfolio Manager is going to automatically select the most recent 12-month period where there is complete data available in which your score is a 75 or higher. It also will then run a series of checks to say, okay, you may be eligible for certification based on your score, but these are things that look odd to us or we might potentially ask about. And so going through this check process is really helpful. You can add in explanations to ideally give reviewers enough information where they will not have to come back to you with questions. And then once you go through all those, you can click Save for signatures. Next slide. I did want to highlight a couple common alerts that we've seen so far with vehicle dealerships, just to give you an understanding of what those things look like. One of the biggest ones that we see is repeating entries, and that's usually in a utility bill. Say if you have the same number 3 months in a row, Portfolio Manager is going to flag that and just ask why that is, because often data, especially utility bills and energy use, is not exactly the same number more than once in a time. And so you might need to explain that one. Next slide. Another one is if you have solar or wind at your property. If you have a solar or wind meter, just make sure that you've put in the information correctly. And next slide. And you've benchmarked your renewable energy correctly. We have a 4-page guide on how to benchmark your renewable energy use in Portfolio Manager, which we'll put in the chat so you can download if you like. And that gives you just much more detail on the specific steps and how to do that. One of the real benefits is in the last year, Portfolio Managers made it a lot easier to benchmark your renewable energy use. And if you do have green power, be it on-site renewable energy use as highlighted here, or if you're purchasing green power, there's a step-by-step process that Portfolio Manager can walk you through on how to enter that data. Okay, next slide, please. Other common alerts. If you have additional meters with energy use that are not associated to the property, it's going to flag that because it's not clear what those meters may be capturing and why they're no longer associated with your property. So if you can give a clear, detailed description of that, it will be really helpful for the reviewers as well. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. We've gone through, oh, sorry, one more. Negative meter entries. So if you have a meter and you're putting a negative sign in there, you can't do it. If you have on-site renewable energy, you'll just have to have a second meter created. So if you're net metering to the grid, you've got to have a second meter showing that you're using some of that energy on site. And so we can't have any negative meter entries. Again, that document that we're sharing a link to will walk you through the process of how to correctly set up your meters for renewable energy. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, great. So at this point, you've gone through the process, you've gone through the eligibility questions, you've given descriptions on some of these specific issues, and now you can apply for recognition, which is generating the application for signatures. One of the things you'll need to do at this point is start working with a licensed professional, and they are going to come to your building and they're going to verify your energy consumption data. And so the licensed professional will be somebody who is going to look at the data for your energy meters and making sure that what's in Portfolio Manager matches your utility bills. And they'll need to sign and stamp every section of your application. They are responsible in a sense of ensuring that your application is valid. Next slide, I'm going to go into more of the licensed professional. Okay, so a licensed professional, the role of that is to make sure that the Energy Star label and Energy Star certification retains the highest level of rigor. This person will visit your site, and this can be an employee of your organization. So it does not have to be an independent third party. They must, however, comply with all the guidelines in the licensed professional guide, and they must be willing to put their stamp and signature on your application. They have to possess a current license and be in good standing, and really understand all of the things that are being asked of them to review. Energy Star does accept licenses from Canada. Next slide. Okay, so what is this person going to do? They're going to conduct a site visit, and as I mentioned, they're going to verify all of the data inputs to make sure they matched. They're also going to assess your environmental quality, and that's really to look at what's your air quality. They're not going to inspect other things, but really only things specific to your Energy Star certification application. They will work with you if they see any insufficiencies or any errors to make sure that that data is updated, and then they can check any regenerated documents as needed. Now, as we mentioned earlier, there is no cost for Energy Star certification from the EPA. However, if you work with a licensed professional, they may charge you for your data verification and that site visit. Additionally, if you have a licensed professional that is agreed to work with you, they can send someone in their stead to conduct the site visit, as long as that original licensed professional is comfortable signing and stamping your application. So they can send a proxy who is in your physical area to do the on-site visit. Next slide. Okay, so after the application has been generated for signatures and after your site visit, you'll go back into Portfolio Manager and you can complete this site visit portion of the application. You'll just make sure to complete the date that the site visit was performed and who performed it. If they found discrepancies or issues, that licensed professional can add them in here, and then you can say, but we've corrected these mistakes. If there's no issues with your application, you just select no. And you can also indicate if this was done pro bono. So we are really looking to expand the group of licensed professionals that offer data verification services on a pro bono basis, especially for organizations potentially as K through 12 schools or worship facilities, which may not have that as part of their budget. Next slide. So if you had selected yes, that there were some issues with your application, this is where you can make revisions, create detailed information, and then say, yep, I made all of these necessary revisions, and regenerate that revised application. Once you do that, you can click yes and then continue. Next slide. You're getting close now. Okay, so in this point, you attach the signed document, and that is the signed application. As you had mentioned earlier, the person who's qualified to sign your application. You enter the application tracking number that you got from your generated application. You'll mark each of the check boxes to make sure you're clear on it was signed and stamped, it was signed by the signatory, everything is complete, and your tracking numbers match. And then you attach that signed document. And this can just be a scan of the signed and stamped application. You upload that, and then next slide, you hit submit. You enter your username and password, and then you submit it, and your application at this point is complete. So congratulations, you got through that step. Next slide. So once you've officially submitted your application, now you can see it through to award. And this allows you to really track the status of your application. And if there are questions, answer those questions. Next slide. Okay, so once you've submitted that, you can then go into the recognition section of your Portfolio Manager account and take a look at which applications have been submitted and where they are in the process. You'll see if something's been approved, if there's questions, and all of that information. One important thing to note is that you will only see these once your application has been generated. If you have not yet submitted your application and generated it, it's not going to show up here yet. Next slide. So some time frames. Usually submissions take 1 to 2 weeks to review, and then you'll have 30 days to respond to EPA if there's questions or concerns with your application. Now, at this time of year, when there are a lot of applications coming in, it can take longer. And so it's just something to be to take into consideration. It's worthwhile that any application that you submit at this point and through the application deadline may take up to 4 weeks. One of the key highlights also is the year that's listed on your certification is based on the year that your application was approved. And so if you submit an application the day before the deadline and there are questions with it in 2024, it may not be approved until 2025. And so we always recommend, especially this will be the first year, obviously, for vehicle dealerships. But if your dealership is looking to get consecutive year-on-year Energy Star certification, we always recommend you apply earlier in the year so you have time to answer questions and are able to get year-to-year consecutive certification. Next slide. And the date for this year is December 13th. So that is the last date for 2024 certification that you'll be able to submit that application. After that point, I don't believe the window for submitting applications opens until February. And so it's really, if you want to make sure you get 2024 certification, I highly recommend you get moving on that process soon. And so you've got time to do the application portion, the data verification visit with a licensed professional, and have time for questions and response if Energy Star has any. Next slide. Okay, so once you actually earn certification, you can communicate your achievements. And as Jerry mentioned earlier, Energy Star is very excited to highlight your success and to give you the tools and resources you need to highlight that success. We recommend that you highlight that decal on the front door or in a public place of your building. And then we have templates for newsletter articles, email blasts, website content, press releases or blog posts, and social media posts that you can use to promote not just internally to your employees, but to your customers and your colleagues in the industry, this certified property and your success. Next slide. If you need help, we are here to help. We have a buildings help and a number of opportunities to find a licensed professional, get detailed information on Portfolio Manager and the process of benchmarking, and just overall guidance on Energy Star certification. So these are all available on the Energy Star website. Additionally, if you are just starting out on focusing on energy efficiency and are looking for more of a step-by-step understanding of how to start and how to move through this, we have an Energy Star treasure map that's specific to vehicle dealerships. And this covers 8 to 10 key areas and provides you a step-by-step checklist of items and areas, and then detailed information on how to improve your energy efficiency in those areas. And so for vehicle dealership, it would include lighting, heating, ventilation and air conditioning, your building envelope, your bays and your paint booths, all areas specific to vehicle dealership operations.